Welcome back to the Social Contrast.
Welcome.
Episode number 5. I hope you enjoyed the previous 4 episodes. And now we're back to music discussions. And who are we talking about today?
A local yokel here, local failed music producer. Just kidding. Hey.
Not filthy.
No, I'm just kidding.
We're here to talk about Low Presher.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm thankful.
Low Presher. No, I'm thankful for that band too. And especially highlighting part of the Florida culture as well, because that's what we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah. So what, we're going to give a listen to a song and then chop it up?
Yes, we're going to be presenting you 3 songs of the band Low Presher. We're going to be discussing and analyzing each of the 3 songs. If you're interested in more of the songs by Low Presher, just go to the website link provided in the description where you can see more of the content. You can also view Low Presher's music on Spotify as well. Is that right, T?
Yes, indeed.
But before we start with the first song, T, go ahead and give the listeners a background on what the whole basis of Low Presher has been.
We started writing music and getting a band together in the late 80s. And by the very early 90s, the 4 of us had gelled here in the Central Florida area, got it together, started gigging, and I'm just making this fast, but we got our show tightened up, and we heated up our fan base, and we heated up, we got a manager, and wrote like 3 albums that we released and a bunch of stuff that's unreleased, and it's kind of a synopsis, 1992 to 2004 or 7, somewhere in that area.
I remember when you were talking about it at that time. And I remember that you and the back formed in 1995 Everything Records.
Yeah, that was our record company. And we were basically like a 4-piece rock band plus percussive instruments that we made, DIY stuff. We made it out of like timber, bamboo, and some bones, like hog skulls and a big painted water turtle shell, and what else? A big gator skull and a box turtle. And so, yeah, it was DIY. Yeah, they were all, they died on their own and stuff.
Well, that's part of the cultural background of Low Presher, of the Eastern Florida life.
Yes.
Of environmentalism, of surfing, of the free-spirited individual.
Yeah, all of us were way into the sea, the ocean, as well as, the land. And we all have kind of a shared sentiment of, we don't like to see like, a big giant pile of tires that got swallowed by trees, and 20 years later it's a big just a nasty spot in the forest or whatever, or anything like that. Litter, all the hubbub, unsightly stuff.
Oh, you even made your artistic contributions to environmental movements. You were at Earth Vibe in 1995 at the Volusia County Fairgrounds in Daytona Beach.
Yeah, we put Earth Vibe on, and it was real cool. Up there at the fairgrounds, and it was it shined a light on a bunch of different environmental groups, and it connected a bunch of drummers from around the state. We had a DIY, it's a bring your own drum and jam with the bands on stage. Yeah, everybody brought their drums, and they jam with the bands, and then we had like an indoor facility for like electronic music, DJs and whatnot. Andy Hughes, if you look that name up, he was there. A couple of other DJs that a few of them might have got their hot start there.
Yeah. Andy Hughes was at Earth Vibe.
Okay. Respect.
Sorry. No, I will say it was that he helped mark the early careers.
Yes, he also played it. Maybe he played at Cosmos, a big electronic gig in the Orlando Convention Center, because our percussive instruments that went along with our traditional rock band instruments, they're played with sticks and stuff, but they triggered samples. So it was kind of it was live, but it wasn't like the skin of an animal or the wood making the sound. It was, the signal went back to little sensors, piezoelectric sensors to trigger a note within the sampler. So we got to, customize all our music and,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we sampled all kind of stuff, our own samples. The Emma Parish Theater, where we played our first gig.
Over in Titusville, in downtown Titusville?
Yeah, it was our first gig, and it was a great party. But just, I believe, across the street, when they demolished the buildings in the 70s, they there was a bunch of bricks left over, and they let people from the town come out and, collect the bricks so we could do with them, build stuff. But the song Scoregasm, we sampled 2 of them bricks rubbing together, and we were triggering them live. But that's the kind of thing, we sampled stuff and we triggered it live, and it was everything you hear on the albums is played live. Even if there's like a lot of layers of drum and percussion, it's a person doing it.
Was that in when you play in the Daytona for Earth Vibe? Was that when we were talking about jamming and you were?
That was a different gig.
Oh, that was a different gig.
That was more on the beach. Yeah.
No, I remember years ago when I spending my weekends in Brevard County, you and the band jamming in the studio in the woods. My brothers peeking in and checking it out as well. I remember you and the band crew.
Always, yeah.
And but what I didn't know is that you teamed up on a national tour with the surfer Tom Curran.
Yes.
For Ocean Aid.
Yes.
I had no idea you were on that tour for promoting for that nonprofit environmental agency.
It was great, and we were super thankful to hop on the tour. I think Jimmy Beach and I went down to Melbourne, and Curran was touring, Tom Curran. And I remember Slater was playing with him in Melbourne, and Dave Setgas, who owned the Groove Tube at the time. And long story short, we got to go play the Jacksonville gig after that, which was great. And I think there's some photos on somebody's Instagram, some photographer dude that was there. But yeah, we played at the Milk Bar, and then we got the nod to hop on the tour and head up to New York, New Jersey, and Maryland, and Virginia Beach. And it was the funnest thing ever. We closed a tour up at this spot here called The Edge before it, turned into like a country bar or something. But it was great. And I think Greenwich Village, right? We got to play at the Wetlands, which is cool,
Huh.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, there you have it. Environmentalism, the free-spirited individual, the surf life, the artist questing for truths behind man's nature, and the transcendental forces around them. Is a mouthful, but that is the heart and soul
kind of vibes of Low Pressure.
Low Pressure.
Neat.
So remember, if after this podcast you're interested in the music of Low Pressure, you can click on the link on the description to check out their webpage. You can also find their music on Spotify. First song, And Colony.
Yeah, we're fixing to lay it down. Footnote, we haven't released even all the music from all the CDs, so it's forthcoming. But yeah, we're going to stop the reel here and play the song for you. Un momento.
All right, so just sit back and relax. The song's about between 2 to 3 minutes. Enjoy the song And Colony.
There's an ant colony living in my
And we're back. So what you just listened to was one of the most popular songs of Low Pressure and Colony.
Yes, thanks for hearing it.
What I got from the song was moments of clarity that from a waking dream, there was no confusion or conniption. Things faster, brighter, cleaner, forces guiding me, the time bomb going off from ignited data, not pretending that we're all jiving, motions making my body art. From these lines of the song that I just quoted,
all right,
there is truth. There's an evident truth as the human form within these. What would you say to that as the theme?
You know, I'm not throwing that right back at you. I'm not doing that, but I will say that just off the cuff, when you brought the song up, I'm always thinking about that moment when I think I was in my I had a Ford Ranger truck, right, with no AC and all that, trying to be saving money and all that, but I was driving down 95 and I saw an ant colony in my car, and it's like everything gets ate. We get eaten, and everything that there is, colonized, eaten, reworked, buried, all that. And then, I was kind of vibing on and I had a little baby pine tree also growing on the floorboard, So when the second verse hits kind of the backwards, it's the same thing. Well, I did, in fact, have an ant colony living in my car and a pine tree living in my car. And, from there started riffing on, how life on the planet and how it's in the harmony and the sing song with the sun, talking to a star. So I don't know if that fits in that pocket that you was just trying to, but that's kind of where the song hatched, like from that like little human perspective of, gosh, look at that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Is that in this song, is as if the narrator, the voice behind the song, is finding a connection between the ants in the car, the pine tree,
and
to himself, and realizing his place in the universe. That there is no frustration of identity. There is no confusion as to who he is. It is as if.
Excuse me.
You got in a moment.
I drank some tea. Inhaled it. Excuse me.
Told you not to put milk in that cream. I done told you.
Man, it got me.
No, you okay?
Yeah, thank you.
But that's what I understood from it, that the speaker behind it is as if he has a moment of clarity by his connection with those two small organisms that are in his own mechanical transport, which leads me to this second part, that what would the ant colony in the car signify? Would it be a collective consciousness en route to a greater voyage? Like to us, to us and the things that are at our level, ants and pine cones and any sentient being that's far smaller than us sees us as something greater than them, but beyond our world.
The old Horton hears a who kind of thing.
Exactly.
The macrocosm and the microcosm.
Horton, I can't believe that.
Well, I remember reflecting on, like, asking myself, what is the car one time? And sometimes I'm like, maybe that's a palatable worldview, something that's got the hard edges and spikes of life, but also you can go, yeah, okay, I'm part of that machine there. I'm cool with it. Because maybe in the end, where I'm plastic mental in my car, where I'm, more adaptable and pieced out, that's kind of, that's where I was like, what's the car? And at the very end of the song, it says, now I'm plastic mental in my car. Like I'm a little bit more flowy because I can, relax about it all because it's in real time and it's gooey and it's not rigid, and I'm part of it and found a peace. But the car, maybe it's a state of mind that's that you can live in and not be like the sky's falling, because it is falling.
But it's great that you said a state of mind, because the fact is that what is a car but a mechanical transport that man has created?
Oh, and a paradigm that works for your worldview is that or you can operate using them instead of getting all tore up with your own, looking in. I don't know.
No, that's what I'm leaning to, because, like I said, it takes us on journeys. That's what the purpose of the car is supposed to get us from point A to point B. Meanwhile, you are sharing this car with other small sentient organisms at the same time, yet we're on this one planet traveling. We don't know where we're going. We are just, like I said, a sentient collective in communication with the universe as it travels around the galaxy. We are constantly going in one direction around the sun while that entire system goes through the galaxy. And then we look all the way back down on Earth to a car, whether it's a man or an ant colony or even a pine tree. We look up to the stars, and what do we see but the same thing an ant might see looking up from the floor of a car?
The roiling miracle.
The roiling miracle.
Right? Life. Yeah.
And it kind of, it doesn't remind me of, but I just thought of this one stand-up bit by Joe Rogan.
Okay.
He was talking about, he was criticizing someone who was telling him that he should go see the Grand Canyon, that looking at the Grand Canyon changed his life. And then Joe Rogan said, how about all that? He pointed up to the stars, like those aren't light bulbs. Those are nuclear explosions happening millions of miles away, and you're impressed by a ditch. You drove 700 miles to see a ditch.
I think I heard that one.
It was one of my favorite bits.
That is cool. It's free to look up.
But it also connects to the whole idea that, we might have our own issues, whether it's trying to save up money or trying to start up our band or trying to make the next payment, whatever our frustrations may be. We ourselves are metaphorically ants in our own colony, well, tribal colonies if you consider nations, on this blue ball floating around. It's more of like a rock interpretation of this one song of Monty Python from The Meaning of Life. It's called The Galaxy Song with Eric Idle. He basically tells us our lives, our problems are very insignificant. Like, just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving.
Yeah.
That basically our issues are insignificant compared to the constructs of the universe.
I like that. Found a peace, even though it's on fire and out of control. That's pretty spot on. Not a cog in the wheel kind of part of it, but a beautiful part.
It's existential. It's pantheistic. It's falling in line with the band's name, relating to the spirals of the natural world, generating energy all from the same source. Which, I mean, what a coincidence that you guys, the name Blow Pressure relates to the
signature, the path of least resistance.
Exactly.
Yeah. In the sky, in the sync, in the satellite image.
The omniscient natural force.
Yeah. You know it when you see it.
Would you say that Ant Colony is not the song, but it's one of your principal songs in highlighting that transcendental message of Low Pressure?
Likely the most simple one that gets all heady and philosophical about, the roiling miracle, the whole ball of wax and stuff. It's probably the most heady and thinky one like that,
I'm inclined to agree with you, because that's exactly what I felt listening to the guitar riffs.
So, okay.
It's a bit of it, I forgot the name. There's a song by Blue Oyster Cult, and the way how
got a chord progression nugget that sounds similar. Yeah.
I forgot the name of, I think something, not the whole song, but this one piece, Don't Fear the Reaper. That's
okay.
It. For a second.
I've heard that, yeah.
The way how the guitar rips in that song kind of reminds me of that bit.
And then maybe I'll 2 cents and say that then our chord progression goes just a little bit more melancholy. while it bounces around, right? I'll tell you what I really, really love when I hear that bass line, and I always thought that it sounded M-O-D, it sounded mod, like the Mod Squad from back in the 70s, kind of, that's cool. And I think of that, when I was a little kid watching the Mod Squad. They were pretty cool. They had their bell bottoms and stuff. They're whatever. But the bass line, it's mod, right? I think it. Well, that's how I hear it and see it. I don't know if that's accurate, if that even means anything, but I just love that rolling, that bass loop. And even though Nate tweaked out that melancholy edge in the chord progressions, at the end, in the very end, you find that resolution right in the last chords where they settle out and give you like a balanced ending. I don't know if you remember.
No, I know what you're talking
ending.
about.
Yeah, so I like that.
Well, ant colony, and whether it is an ant colony living in someone's car or us being the ant colony in another unknown being's car in this mysterious universe, it is still nonetheless a song that echoes one of the essential messages of low pressure.
Cool.
Sneaky Submarines.
Okay, that's what's next, huh?
Second song. Now, before I play it, is there any purpose why you selected that song?
Not all of our songs are available to everybody, and I was trying to get you 3 nuggets. You wanted 3 different things, so we did the philosophical deal, and I thought maybe this one, I heard it and I was like, oh, that's political, so that's kind of cool.
So this song would echo your political approach, the closest political.
I'd say to echo a moment of my life and my bandmates where we were thinking about stuff, and there were some local phenomenons happening too that drove us to kind of get it going. So I remember Jimmy Beach. Jimmy and I were surfing a lot, and we kept hearing like around here, some of the beaches around here north and south of the Cape, we were duck diving waves, and we would hear this weird like click, and it was the same, and it was uncanny. It wasn't just like I heard one click, but it was just kind of repeated thing underwater.
Oh, dude, I remember you told me this years ago.
We heard it in Cocoa, we heard it at P-Land, and then we heard it in Jack's because we played a gig up there and we got to surf. And when that was over, I think Jimmy and I were like, man, we got to write a song. It was like, we're getting spied on, and somebody was reminding us of I think that was
spied on.
Well, there was something called the mystery rumbles, and they happen all around the world. You probably heard of them, where there's these unexplainable phenomenons of these sounds that no one has put their finger on it, and we had one, and it just added fuel to all this. I think it's on one of my Instagram deals, but it was heard from like Cocoa to is it Tavares? Pretty far up north.
Tavares, I think so.
Yeah, but it was these big weird rumbles. So we were all, and someone said, oh, the president was in town when that little tidal wave hit Smyrna, and there was a nuclear sub off the coast, and so it was all a swirl up of like, what is going on? And we let our imaginations float it, Should we take like a side note and hear about something real weird that we've seen in the water?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's this one guy that used to surf with us a lot, and he was he cussed a lot, and he was like an MFer guy. That's just how we knew him, because it was like, just regular talk came out. That word was coming out a lot, and the MF dude came out, and we were hanging out surfing, and I felt something weird, and I felt like something out of my peripheral vision, and I looked. I was laying down on my belly and paddling. I turned around, and I saw this thing up in the air like a cobra, but it was like a cattail, the tip of a cattail that you see in a lake, the reeds, but the brown part, but the whole thing, and it had these tiny little spikes on it, and it laid over and slapped, and it hit my foot, and later on the beach, I found a splinter, which I wish I would have kept and put in some formaldehyde or whatever. But after it hit me, it bubbled up under that dude, and he fell off his board into it, and all these, like, I don't know what they were, like these arm things were like slapping around him kind of wildly, not clamping, but it was the weirdest thing. Still don't know what it was, you know.
That's what you were when you were in the water surfing?
Yeah, manta ray fellas, I don't know. That was weird, right?
No, it was weird, and I totally get. I mean, I don't know, maybe once or twice when I was out on the board that something swim past my feet, but nothing as weird as that.
Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, we heard all these weird noises, and there's all these conspiracy theories, and just it got drummed up. That's why we were motivated to write Sneaky Submarines. I love the way the bass and the just the arrangement and the way it makes you feel like the clock going by, and Sneaky Submarines.
Well, I'm glad you picked Sneaky Submarines because I think this one highlights another dimension of low pressure.
Cool. Should we let them give it a listen?
Here we go. Sneaky Submarines. Enjoy the song and stay tuned for our analysis of the song. And that was Sneaky Submarines.
Numero dos.
Numero dos.
Setting, vibes. What are you feeling?
My first thought when listening to the song was he thought that he better stop his thoughts.
Like he is being observed, kind of.
Yeah, for a second that he feels like he should stop thinking. Like
Big brother.
Yeah, someone watching over you. You should stop breathing so they don't hear you, as if they can hear his thoughts.
Yeah, that's deep.
Like a paranoid state of mind.
Yeah.
Then he jumps to the girlfriend beckoning him to kill an insect. Between the conflict of the thought and killing the insect, he repeats the sneaky submarines. So,
and the insect was a robot, right?
That's what I wanted to know is why the red LED. Because we jump from a person who thinks someone is following them or hearing what they think to a guy whose girlfriend tells him to kill out the bug, and it drops and a flashing red LED appears.
Yeah, and I hope you got all the lyrics. But yeah, what did I see? One transmitter and red LEDs. So like you're out there vibing and getting spied on at the beach, and then you're home with your girl, and you realize that's the fly on the wall is a little listener. That kind of more Big Brother and tech stuff.
So it's Orwellian.
For sure. Definitely.
So would you say that the song is, for lack of a better word, criticism of observation of citizens, of people being spied on, whether it's on their phones or even in their own house? Because there have been, other than, NSA listening in on people's phone calls. It has happened before when in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. I mean, God knows how far back when they started planting bugs in the homes of political enemies, people in government.
So yeah, it was probably along the lines of that Orwellian vibe mixed up with all the, the stuff happening and kind of vibing like, well, what if? And then like adding on to it later in the song, adding on to it with a kind of vibe of when you have to do like all the adult realizing of, a bunch of your money is going to get wasted and people are scamming and there's a bunch of higher ups scamming and like not just saying like somebody who's built some money up, but like a corporation, something that's nefarious, something that's just ugly but big, and bringing it all up to mine it and bring it back up the tributaries, all the way back up the creeks, up to the evil snows. Yeah. Where the, maybe, just kind of vibing on that as a young person, just going, oh yeah, that's not cool, but that's happening.
Without a doubt, there have been, historical cases, big government and big business going hand in hand. People being
the bureaucratic sneak around and the obfuscation and just the frustration of, wow, now I know that you got to watch out and don't get snake bit by the system, right? Because it's going to have the dark corners and people that exploit it and exploit your hard-earned, blue-collar guy kind of dollars.
Which is a fact that is well known, because even in the markets, our choices, we think that we have so many choices in business, things that we want to buy, services that we want provided. But as more companies take more control of the markets,
it's just what's laid before you looks like choices, but it probably is lame and limited.
It's limited because not just limited in availability. Like you can go to the market and buy anything you see there if you have the cash, but the quality of what you buy
and bang for buck.
We do have a choice, but at the same time, we don't have the control or the choice of what quality should be sold to us.
And maybe the song is just the outright knee-jerk or expression of, just feeling some of that in a light way or a heavy way and going, man, that ain't cool, just for a moment, and then saying it in a song real quick, like all that spying, all that angling to regular people's money, and just a scheminess. Like once in a while you go, man, come on.
Well, remember when we did the Grateful Dead episode, we brought up of how that Jerry Garcia criticized the record industry in that they did not enjoy the fact that they're being told what their music should be to make it a product. When they want to put a message out there, when they want to put out something that they create and not what some producer tells them they should sell.
When they're riding the edge of it, and then somebody's trying to be like, just make it a hamburger with cheese. Yeah. And they're like, we're making filet mignon and all that.
Because then you stop becoming the artist, you become the vendor. You're not the provider, you're just the factory manufacturer.
Trying to mold in and undo what got you there.
I like that you make the insect a listening robot, because when you said the red LED, all I think is a red light beeping on a dead insect. And it makes me think of the very cell phones that are on the table, because anything that we say can be heard into the cell phone. And then one day when we go on Google and they promote things that are related to the topics that we've been saying, articles about insects or pine trees or ant colonies.
You got a server dedicated to your voice, every snippet, every vowel, every consonant, and they got to fake you.
A tool for the advertising industry as well. What I wanted to point out in the song was, in fact, the evil snow.
Yeah, where it all goes down to
the machinations of the whole system.
Yeah.
The
man behind the curtain.
The man behind the curtain. Now, before I get to, I want to point out that when the narrator says that there is no bond or brotherhood or connection to them, those in the higher ups, that they're evil. This would be those who are the unseen, but yet they're present. That they have an intent to patrol, to monitor and control. Like the submarine, you can see it.
And hearing the stories of, hey, here's a regular person that tried to right a evident wrong, or course correct something that was needed help but got snuffled. And so when you see that, you feel like, man, I got no blood with them. We're different, and the coldness versus like a warm heart versus cold heart. That's kind of what that little nugget was about, when you just saying, got no blood with them, and they're not, we don't jive.
No, we don't, because one group's out for themselves and the other is doing the best they can for their community.
And they, oftentimes get like, they get Nelson Mandela or whatever. They get shut down, locked up, socked away, quelled. And that's, it gets you heated when you hear about it or you feel it,
I love that you describe the system as some mechanical form of nature that works backwards, as if the social order were contrary to the essence of nature. That we as a society, we have an agreement. We follow rules for the sake of reciprocated safety, yet there are those who wish to control and exploit. Very simple.
Lever pullers.
But
push the right buttons, pull the right strings, but instead
it's all about control and exploiting and benefiting.
Trap doors. Yeah.
The music and the lyrics remind me just a bit, of System of a Down. It's somewhat melancholic, mysterious, with a hint of ambiguous beauty within the tune. And it's focused on how the hypocrisy of authority, industry, and superficial social norms play an unhealthy role in the lives of people. A bit of aerial views or something. It's a bit like, reminds me a bit of that song, other signature songs of System of a Down. Usually it's a similar message, different forms of these downside of social control.
Little call out. Look at this. Yeah. Are we feeling this together? Yeah.
But instead, it's more like, it's almost a surrealist way of saying something's wrong here.
I like that.
Something is askew. That the social contract is askance.
And stay in a alert mode because of it. Awareness.
We, as sentient beings, we are aware of it, especially when we stop and pause, just like the one who stops and thinks, should I stop thinking? Now, of course, it's an anxious feeling. It's a paranoid feeling. But we react to that because we sense a danger.
And we're the generation that are all swimming in tech, and we know what's coming. Pretty much a lockdown coming.
Which brings me back. I know I said it before, but it brings me back again to the insect because for some reason, because out of all the things, you chose an insect. The small being because on Ant Colony.
Oh, another one. Okay, yeah.
Once again, a small being that's part of your world. Now, the insect you say is, well, we know it's it's mechanical, it's robotic, it's a listening device.
Yeah.
Comparing ourselves to an actual insect, the girlfriend tells to kill the insect.
It's bothering me.
It's bothering me. Girlfriend reviles the insect.
Yep.
Labeling it dirty and bothersome.
Yeah, like entitled, elite, like it's just, it doesn't count.
But before even knowing that, the exact acting entitled, elite, as of this small thing is beneath you because it looks hideous and it's ugly, it's dirty, and must be destroyed.
Kind of doing to something what's being done to you.
Yep. The insect itself is innocent. Well, before noticing that it's a machine, but if it was an actual insect, it's innocent. Insects are an important niche to our ecosystems, and we view some of them as a nuisance. Fire ants, termites, cockroaches, but they all have a role on our planet. Meanwhile, the ending lyrics of the backwards function of the information flow reminds me of a parable by Kafka.
Cool.
Because in the elite social hierarchy that definitely existed centuries ago, there were people that were treated as pariahs. And it's astonishing that even nowadays people would acknowledge certain other people at that level, the same way that some people treat insects with disdain or disgust or contempt.
Yep.
But another Kafkaesque notion that I thought of when I was listening to the song is the reversal of the information flow. Because we're not privy to the information flow. The information flows for the higher ups. Any more than we invite a beetle to the dinner table, we're not in the pipeline of knowledge, right? They're not invited to the pipeline of knowledge. And it reminds me of this parable by Kafka called, I believe it's called A Message from the Emperor. It's really good because Kafka, he's just a master of irony and paradox. So the message from the emperor is that the emperor has an important message for his people. And Kafka describes how the message has to go through so many corridors and walls and departments. The message never arrives because of the bureaucracy it has to get through just to get to the people.
It's corrupted before it can be used to corrupt.
Corrupt so badly that it dissipates and the message never arrives to the people. It never does because it's one of Kafka's motifs in showing the futility of dealing with bureaucracy.
Okay.
Of how it's designed to oppress people with its tedious and seemingly endless processes, as if to prevent people from being given the government service that they're owed. In your case, the backwards flow of information is saying that what the people need to know of how things are run are not given to them.
It's going up to the elite, the evil snows, the people who get to tune in to the goodies.
That is Sneaky Submarines' final song. We have
something more playful.
Something more playful, more brighter. Sure, this is called 1,000 Friends.
Cool, gonna give it a listen.
Give it a listen and then tune in for the discussion.
banner up so high you're willing to try, but fixing ties won't make things better. Do it. Rifles and bottles, a fresh batch of hard-to-make needles, a baby dolphin with burning skin. They can't say a cuss word, are we really? Oh, it best. Man is a fungus, connected to himself with highways and radio waves and other ways.
So that was 1,000 Friends.
1,000 Friends. I think 1,000 Friends, when it got wrote, were pretty jacked up and loving playing, a lot of that, like, I guess, punk influence stuff, especially of the era, when Pennywise was blown up. And anyways, super fun. And I heard a lot of guitars that were out of tune, but that goes with the territory, right? But yeah, we hatched that song soon after we had like a band and their friends and girlfriends. We planned this like outing in the winter when it was real nice, somewhere out like maybe by Hollover or something. And it was beautiful, and we had planned it and blah, blah, blah. And for my part, we all went on these big walks and we were just hanging out all day, and it was beautiful. I was walking along the shore and I was like, oh, that's so inspiring. It's been so glad we're doing this. And I was all lit up by nature. And right when I was feeling that, like, oh, I'm going to walk down to that piece of land juts out. I'm going to walk the whole beach. And right when I took my first step, it was a bag of needles right there on the shoreline, just all slopping up, like with the muddy water and a bunch of trash. And it ruined me, and it ruined some of our day. It stuck to us. So we went back to the studio and we busted it out. So it was kind of a, just a statement on let's do better together, and some things are just revolting and shouldn't be getting through the cracks.
The first thing I caught on is the repetitive reference to trash, the big gulp cups, other trash rustling in the wind.
Dumb and Dumber as well. Big gulps, huh?
No.
Yeah, that's right there in the pocket. Yeah.
The IV bags, the hypodermic needles, the light bulbs.
Yep, typical river litter.
But my favorite line of that song has to be, what you do with your trash is a matter of style.
Yeah, I saw you cracking on that. You want to open that up a little bit?
That is a direct poke at the culture of judgment.
Okay.
You guys have an emphasis on the environment. You play festivals on it, you've done your promotion, and here in the song, you show the metaphor of how man, like a fungus, is attached to his own world, a world of highway roads,
radio
waves as if they're immersed in their own ecosystem. Yet there are those immersed in this ecosystem in an ecosystem of trash who would judge what is and what is not trash.
Yeah.
And that metaphor goes as far as not just physical trash, but those who do not necessarily adhere to the social constructs that they're out in their own transcendental discovery with the waves.
And that is, it's in the very beginning when I think it's 1,000 Friends and a Poor Man's Smile, that warm sentiment, and you get all philosophical and poetic and stuff, and it's directly, like, not directly, but contrasted to the way you feel when you feel all hard about, like, hard stuff in life, or, you know, revolting things. And the openers were like, you know, you're one person, but you feel all gooey and warm, and then you feel just all hard about stuff, and just that, have them both, you know. And I guess I thought you were going to say the line you picked out, I thought it was going to be the baby dolphin. That was supposed to be impactful because there was a dolphin that was tame out there at the time, swimming in the channel and having all the fun. And while I was writing the lyrics, I was like, what's a stinger that, you know, oh, baby dolphin, it's got burning skin. So that's why that's in there, just to get you, you know, like, that water should be clean. We should be able to swim in it, the Indian River, and most bodies of water around here, right? Or everywhere.
Especially with the coral reefs being affected, that the ocean is dying as we speak.
And we swapped out a hard cuss word twice in a song where I don't give a what, and then the dolphin, they can't say yeah, so we just put a cuss word. But yeah, they can't speak for themselves, and that's sad, you know. Like,
it is, because we're supposed to be
their buddies.
We're not only just the buddies, but we're supposed to be the stewards, or even the co-inhabitants of this planet. But unlike the dolphins, we have the ability to destroy the planet, or to ensure that the ecosystem goes on healthily. But
at least at face value, like, not even getting into the minutia of, like, oh, that's acceptable and that ain't, but just at face value, let's not all, like, throw our trash all over the side of the road.
Let's not dump chemicals that lead into waters where other inhabitants rely on the cleanliness of that water.
Lead pipes.
The idea of, you know, people saying man's an evolved creature, look what we've created. Yep, we've created a lot. Really impressive of what we've created. But we're also slowly destroying ecosystems. Pollution, not just simple plastic bags on the road, but there is a change in the planet, and it has partly to do with industry and mismanagement with waste.
And there's that industry part that's easy to get twisted up about, but then there's the part that you can affect change directly, your daily deal, your trash, and all that good stuff. You know, that's kind of nestled in there. Like, here's your plight, you're willing to fight. You know, your guiding light says raise your banner. So, you know, you can do something. Even though you're wedged in a little bit with, you can't control global pollution. So unless you're like, you aren't not just boxed into a corner of hopelessness, because do little things that kind of get the collective thing going. Okay, on its face, this looks good. You know, your city looks good. Your side of the road looks good. You can swim in the water.
Well, from what you said, it reminds me of back to Sneaky Submarines and the concept of exploitation. And it also ties in with Ant Colony. And let me show you how they're tied in.
Yeah.
How I feel they're tied in. Starting with Ant Colony, there's an ant colony in the car. Now, the ants have their own system, their own world, but they live amongst a giant in the same vehicle. And believe it or not, the way their system can easily be affected based on the actions of that giant, of that person that inhabits the car with them. We are the more powerful beings that can shape their future, that can shape the world that they live in. Just as we are powerful enough to change and affect ecosystems as well. The dolphins and the manatees and the coral and the fish, or animals in the woods losing their homes because some real estate developer wants to build more overpriced,
and give it a name like Quail Haven.
Quill,
Ain't no haven.
or London Estates. I don't know, some pretentious.
Willows.
Yeah, they're doing one next to Chain of Lakes because we need more houses, and at the expense of the homes of whatever rattlesnake or whatever family of possums or whatever animal inhabited the woods now is being torn down. But we have that power to change their world. I feel that we act just like the unseen forces that exploit our own lives in sneaky submarines. And the animals are deprived of the information. Yeah, we consider they're considered as an unimportant life form, and they don't need to know the info because they won't understand the info the way how business is run. But to animals, it's all about survival. We are the ant colony on the planet Earth, but we've yet to see if there's any powerful force in the universe that can easily toy with this planet the way that we can toy with ant colonies, like those YouTube videos I've seen of people pouring in, I think it's molten aluminum in an ant colony, destroying it, or us polluting rivers and burning the dolphins or harming the manatees or whatever aquatic life there is. I think you did a great job picking those three songs because they tie in perfectly. They have a connection to it.
Great. That's neat.
And I picked up another message.
Oh, yeah.
If I can indulge.
Yeah, go ahead.
That there's an attitude, an untroubled attitude.
A Thaddeus. I'm just messing around.
I'm going to use that now. I'm going to use it in the future. Okay. Of being your own star player, especially in the line you're willing to try, but
freaks and ties.
That's
those corporate,
don't make things better because you exclude the toxic influence.
So, but you were saying that.
Just like in the song, especially in the line, you're willing to try, but freaks and ties don't make things better. Keeping away toxic influences.
Yeah.
It is as if you make the distinction that what matters is what you plan to do.
Cool.
That they can either serve along with you, or they can stand on the sand, arms crossed, and shake their heads. Basically,
I saw that. I like that. Yeah.
Because I swear, when I got the notions of waste, I got the notions of littering, of our influences. I got the dolphin part, and I noticed all that. And the weird thing is that I recognized the environmental criticism. At the same time, I was just feeling the beat of the fast-paced culture, of the surfing culture. It reminds me of. I'm not saying it is a surfing culture, but it reminds me of it.
It's got a hot pace.
It had a hot pace.
Vitality.
Vitality, a notable aspect of the band's reputation, because you guys made music for surf videos.
True, yeah.
You had those times with Curran, even as well as when you're touring. Was it one time with Kelly Slater or
a little bit? Yeah, Donovan Frankenreiter.
And so you start out the song with the lines, "There's in 1,000 friends that there's a poor man's smile." That in 1,000 friends, there's a poor man's smile. It's a mantra of confidence. It goes, here's your plight, you're willing to fight, your guiding the light says, raise your banners up so high. It echoes certainty in one's zone environment. And if you know what to do, as if you know what to do, and that you know who to turn to, how close are the vibes of a person trying to just do what they can in their role, as if we have our own niche in the environment, that we can either choose to be with those who profit and exploit, or those who just simply don't care, or you can share the same vibes of those who appreciate what they've got and try not to be a toxic influence on the others.
Yeah, out and out. In the simplest of terms. That's cool. What about the tool user genetic anomaly? Highly weirded out description of what this freaky thing that we are, right?
By being tool user, are you going to be a tool for the man, or are you going to be the person who says, no, I'm going to be a part of the design that's supposed to be the solution?
The uplift, part of the uplift, yeah.
The uplift. And because there are those who cave in and they say, well, there's nothing that I can do about this trashed world, so I'm just going to see if I can be in the big club. But then there are those who say, nah, I want to enjoy what this world has to offer. It might cost me being in the high club, but I'd rather not pretend to be a square, especially a square in line with those who, are in this club where whatever their company manufactures or whatever their club creates to exploit and affecting the rest of the environment in which we live in.
And there was you just reminded me of the that one line. I like that one line, and I don't know what it says, but I like the way it looks when man's not around. When you go somewhere that doesn't have plastic junk all over the ground and just signs of nastiness, and it's just like a refuge or like a place, sanctuary. And in those lyrics, I say I like the way it looks. Keep the scene green, keep it blue, keep it brown. I'm kind of sentimental. I like the way it looks when men ain't around.
You either show what you can do with your trash, whether it is a responsible form or it can be a decrepit form, a detrimental way.
Just a total just don't care way, and it's no good vibes there, and no get along, no on its face. It's like yuck.
Because it's not just what we litter; it's also the bad vibes that we litter in other people's circle.
Yeah, waves, real vibes, trash vibes, destructive, chaotic. Take from vibes, right?
And when I was a kid, I would go to the beach when I spent time with my maternal family, my great aunt and my great uncle in Barcelona, specifically Badalona, so a part of Barcelona. I would go to the beach, a 10-minute walk from the apartment, and the beach in Badalona. There's I think there's a power plant, and you can literally
three-eyed fish.
From The Simpsons, and kind of for a second I just feel dirty or grossed out by the fact that there's like a little tunnel that connects to the beach where the power plant is. Like, oh geez,
is that just warm water or?
Yeah. Well, but going back with 1,000 Friends, imagine if the next generation of surfers go onto that beach and they just see. They might see a glassy swell, but what
toxic water, grit,
cans, banana peels, rusty metal,
foul
plastic.
Smells.
Are you prepared? Are you prepared to surf in that? When I was a kid, I didn't like the fact that there was seaweed in the way when I would paddle out, but.
No, that's the least of it. You're cool with that.
Yeah, but then I learned the difference between organic and waste.
Yeah, you just reminded me one time we surfed a place in Central America that was like an eddy, and out where the waves were, it was kind of green, kind of brown. You could get away from it, but when you came to the shore or when you paddled out, it was so gross. And I don't know. Gosh, anybody getting in the water to swim or surf, nobody wants to feel all that plastic flapping up your leg and a bunch of just nasty silt water.
Dude, imagine if
we got to keep working on that, right?
Step on a needle.
All that, yeah.
Ugh. I mean, I can't fathom how. I mean, that's why I'm
on its face, it ain't cool. We need to do it different. At least on that level, it's not so hard. I mean, there's big complex problems with, our water, our food, and our trash and all that, just dealing with the refuse. But we all know, in the simplest of terms, that we don't want to see nasty stuff laying around, like where you're walking and all that, just basic stuff.
We don't want to see nasty stuff laying around, whether we're surfing or we're walking in the park.
Poor style.
We don't want, nor do we want any Debbie Downer killing the vibe of the other friends who just want to have a blast.
And I'll put 2 cents in and say we do want to fund a bunch of brainiacs to crack the code and help figure some of this stuff out and, unravel the riddle without permanently, damaging and corrupting stuff, the water and whatnot. But yeah, we want to put some effort and money into unraveling those riddles. Figure out how to, the dream, how to turn plastic into, undiggle the daggle so it can compost and then, all that. Just we'd like to see those codes get cracked with science.
It would be great to see that if we invest our time and energy of rectifying, of demonstrating that we can do better than worse to get past the exploitation. But we don't want waste, whether it's physical or attitude.
Or we want to Back to the Future it right into our gas tank, right? Our waste.
Oh, that's a good reference.
Yeah.
But nor do we want, to be, nor do we appreciate to be the lackeys or pets of those very same people that exploit, where there's the businesses that take advantage or the government that enables them to do so. And nor do we want to think that there's nothing beyond to what we are, that we are ourselves an ant colony, but unlike the ants, we seem to be self-destructive.
Yeah, we need to unfoul the waters that we foul and give life a more of a chance and make it so that you can go swimming in the water. You can, if you drink a little bit in accidentally, it's not going to kill you, all that.
But whether it's environmental awareness or opposition to powers that exploit our world or our own existential placement on this planet, it all narrows down to the life of the free spirit, because that's what it narrows down to. It is the one who enjoys this playground of nature that the world has to offer, that we don't want it wasted. We don't want our vibes wasted. We don't want it exploited or ruined. We don't want to feel like we're being followed or taken advantage of, and we don't wish to think that there's nothing beyond our placement, that we're neither better or less than other organisms on this planet. And
there's an equilibrium going on, a bunch of cycles, like a cycle, burning, turning, or like the everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a human colony on this planet.
So I like the tie togethers, and if that's some cool vibes that you wringed out of them songs, that's cool. And I'm super thankful for you to chop it up, and to give everybody a listen, and thank you everybody for lending an ear.
I thank you, T, for trying out this analysis of the songs. I think that their music has more to offer than the surf culture or just simply the rock music, that there's a message within Low Pressure's aim, or what Low Pressure's aim was.
Yeah, we hope you got some of that on you. That's good.
I hope you guys enjoyed the songs. I always do. Check out the rest of Low Pressure's music on Spotify. Again, the links are available in the descriptions. T, thank you so much for being part of the Social Contrast.
Back at you, and thanks for all the other members of Low Pressure. And thank you, Che.
Thank you.